What's up guys, and welcome to the channel. It's Joanna here, founder and CEO of Supwell. Today we're doing a continuation of our series comparing up-tempo training shoes. In this video, I'm gonna take a look at one of my all-time favorite training shoes. That's the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 against a new one that I've been testing, which is the Brooks Hyperion Max. So I'm gonna dive into all the details of these, including the midsole foam, the upper, and the outsoles. If you like these types of hands-on comparisons, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll have lots more of these videos coming your way. Let's get into it. So the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is part of that Saucony Endorphin series, which also includes the Shift, the Pro, and that brand new Endorphin Elite. That Endorphin series is characterized by this big rocker you see up here on the Speed 3. They call it their Speedroll technology, and it gives all of the shoes a nice smooth and fast feeling underfoot. The Brooks Hyperion Max is in the Hyperion lineup from Brooks, and again, that's going to be their faster, speed-oriented lineup of shoes. In that lineup, we see the Hyperion and the Hyperion Elite. The Hyperion is a lower stack daily trainer, tempo trainer, and the Hyperion Elite is the race day shoe. Now these are priced the same at $170, but the Speed 3 has a PEBA foam and a nylon plate in the midsole, while the Hyperion Max has a supercritical EVA. Let's dive into the midsole first of the Speed 3. So you'll see here, this has a really soft and bouncy beaded PEBA. If I do the push test, you'll see it's gonna give me some nice feedback, and it has a pretty snappy experience. So combined with that rocker, this is gonna be a nice, faster everyday running and tempo option. And the way that they've set up this plate here, you can see the wings of this nylon plate is black, gives it some nice stability. Now the Brooks Hyperion Max is using a non-plated stack of DNA flash foam. This is gonna be on the complete other side of the spectrum to that Saucony, whereas that Saucony Power Run PB is soft and bouncy. This is firm and it's not dead, but it's not gonna be as bouncy as that Power Run PB at slower paces. You really gotta put a lot of force in this to get some feedback, and once you do and you get cranking and rolling up in that half marathon to 10K pace, you will get some responsiveness from this. Now if we see the push test here on this one, it's gonna be much firmer, a lot less feedback. We're not really getting much. All right, so let's get into how these things ride. So the Speed 3 with that plate and that PEBA foam is gonna be really snappy, really soft and bouncy. Whereas the Brooks Hyperion Max, again, you really need to get up on your toes and push the pace to get the most benefit from this. Another big difference is if we look at the way that these rockers are set up, you'll see that the Saucony in the back has more of a smoother heel, whereas in this Hyperion Max, there is a really sharp drop off. And this is something that I haven't figured out how to use yet with the shoe, because I tend to be more of a heel striker, and I'm landing at the back of this pad here and it does not feel great. It puts a lot of pressure on my calf. I've read that some other people have had similar issues with this platform. I'm not sure why they had such a sharp cutout here. I think this really could be resolved if they extended the smoothness of this foam about half an inch more. But you'll see in the Speed 3, we don't have that issue. It is very smooth back here, and the landings are pretty planted and stable, but also able to pick up the pace really nicely. The main characterization of the Hyperion Max versus the Speed 3 is that the Hyperion Max is going to be very rigid. Now it's non-plated, but it almost feels like running in a plated shoe, but you're not getting all the benefits that you get with those softer PEBA foam plated shoes that have those carbon plates in them. I personally have not got on too well with the Hyperion Max and prefer the ride of the Speed 3. I also think the Speed 3 is one of those crowd pleasing types of shoes that if you can only get one of these, you'll likely do better in the Speed 3. What I will say about the Hyperion Max in its favor is that the ride will encourage you to midfoot to forefoot strike. So if that is something that you want to work on, or if that's your natural running style and you don't want to run in a plated shoe for your workouts, then this is an absolutely awesome choice to help build that strength, get you up on your toes, and practice that half marathon or faster pace. All right, let's get up to the upper of these guys. You'll see the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 has this nice and stretchy engineered mesh upper. It is very breathable. It's got all these little holes in it. Got some nice overlays here, and then the laces are super soft, and the lockdown on this is one of the best that I've ever experienced. If we go out to the back, it's got a nice solid heel counter and this little plastic reflective piece too. Padding is very similar to what we're seeing on this Hyperion Max. Now if we go to the upper material of the Hyperion Max, it's a scratchier type of mesh. I believe they call it a woven mesh, and it's gonna have more of that traditional canvasy athletic material feel versus that Speed 3 is a bit stretchier. On foot, this feels way more structured than the Speed 3, which can have more of an accommodating type of fit. This is not that. It's also a little bit long, whereas the Speed 3 fit me like a glove. I do have probably a half or quarter of an inch too much space up in the toe box area of the Brooks Hyperion Max. Laces on this guy are also gonna be a bit firmer, a bit more structured if we compare them to the super soft ones that we see on the Speed 3. All right guys, finally my favorite part, we got the outsole comparison. So you'll see here, they both have a really similar layout where you got a lot of rubber up in the forefoot and not so much rubber down here in the heel area. The big difference though is that if we zoom in, you'll see that the thickness of the Hyperion Max is a lot better than the thickness of the Speed 3. Now the Speed 3 has 300 miles on it, where the Hyperion Max only has 40 to 50, so they're not exactly comparable, but I promise you that the XT900 rubber that we're seeing here on the Speed 3 was never as thick as what we're seeing on the Hyperion Max. And if you zoom into both of them, you can see that the Hyperion Max has a lot more attention to detail, and there's rubber and just a much thicker application. So whereas in the Speed 3, both times I've had these, I've worn through the rubber in the back at about 300 miles. If I decide to keep the Hyperion Max in my rotation, which I'm not sure about yet because I have not enjoyed it, then I could probably get 350, 400 miles out of this guy before I would have to retire it. So in terms of who these are best for, the Speed 3 is really a shoe that is great for anyone. It's like a piece of chocolate cake. Nobody is gonna say no to it. But like a piece of chocolate cake, you don't want to be eating it all the time. Because it feels so good, I used to rely on this super heavily and I would run in it almost every day. That is not a good thing to do. You don't want to be running in a super bouncy rockered Peebus shoe every day. You want to rotate your shoes, run in some that are firmer, run in some that are softer, higher drop, lower drop, to get your biomechanics a chance to adapt to different platforms. So Speed 3 is going to be great for long runs, great for tempo work. It's a great beginning racer shoe if you don't want a carbon plated shoe. And if you are targeting a sub 3 hour marathon or are running your second or third marathon, this will be a great shoe for that marathon pace work. For the Brooks Hyperion Max, this is going to be a really good option if you're a bigger or taller runner and you prefer a firmer platform. I recommend the Saucony Endorphin Shift a lot as a daily trainer for bigger and taller runners, and this would be a good companion to that as a tempo shoe if you find the shoe like the Speed 3 too soft. Now, because the rocker on the back of the Hyperion Max is so aggressive, you might not get along with it if you're a heel striker or if you have a certain foot strike pattern. I haven't quite figured out exactly how to navigate this heel area. So if you do think that might be an issue for you, go ahead and order from somewhere where you know you'll have a good return policy. So if it doesn't work for you, you can send it back. All right guys, so there you have it. That was a comparison of the Hyperion Max and the Speed 3. If you enjoy these types of comparisons and reviews, go ahead and subscribe. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for liking, and I'll make sure to keep you up to date on the latest and greatest in the world of performance running.